Ladies and gentlemen, there I was, aiming down the barrel of my sights, and I pulled the trigger. Where did my shells go? Well, I was playing a battleship, so they went right across the bow. Good evening, everybody. How are y'all doing? Welcome back to episode 5 of the Across Your Bow podcast with my special guest tonight, Static the Warmonger. What's up, Static? How you doing today, man?
I'm doing good tonight, Venom. Had a pretty chill stream earlier. Started grinding for the Montana on my alt because I had ranked fever. Still working on that. Hopefully I can play some ranked before the season ends in about 5 days.
Yeah, ranked season, man. It was a mess. It was a mess. So Static, that's what you've been working on. Guys, y'all, this is Static the Warmonger. You guys can see his link right there, twitch.tv/Static the Warmonger, or you guys can catch him on the Twitter at statikthwarmonger. There you go. So today we're gonna go into the news. We're gonna talk about the state of the cruiser, and then we're gonna go into fire chance and dispersion during that cruiser. This will be about an hour and a half, 2 hour long. If you guys have any questions, please reference them with an at Static the Warmonger or at Sir Venom or at one of the mods, and then they could feed us those questions a little bit later, or at Zipshot or somebody who's actually here. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything like that about what we're saying, please do that, and we will address those at the end of the show. A fair warning, though, this is a very cruiser-heavy podcast, and we're going to be very cruiser-apologetic today. So if you battleship players that are out there, or destroyer players that are out there, well, y'all just calm down, because this is all about the cruiser today and has nothing to do with the battleships versus destroyers or any of that other nonsense. So we don't get that guy. We don't get that guy that comes in and say we're just crying about cruisers and how weak they are. So there you go. There's the disclaimer. This is a very cruiser-friendly podcast, this episode. So please adjust your comments and mental states to coincide with that. So, Static, some interesting news this week. Let's go ahead and with your beautiful radar information. Come on, let's get it.
All right, so some of you guys may have seen on the World of Warships development blog, for everybody that is on the Facebook page, or if they follow World of Warships on Facebook in general, but they also, I would assume, they posted on Twitter too. They released a super test batch that is going to be implemented for testing soon, where basically Worcester and Seattle, Tier 10 American Light Cruiser and Tier 9 American Light Cruiser, are going to have their radar ranges set from 9.9 and 9.45 respectively to just 9 flat. And the reason for that is because they said that they want to give destroyers a little bit of a better chance of surviving. Instead of just getting radared and then focused down and then killed instantly, they want destroyers to at least have a chance to escape. So basically, the radar is going to be nerfed down to 9 flat, and basically you will spot the cruiser first before it has the chance to radar you, and that will give you time to be able to take action to evade getting radared.
That's actually pretty good. I'm actually okay with this change. As a destroyer player or destroyer ranked main, I guess, if you really want to put a label on it. As a destroyer player, this is great. Now I'm just waiting. I'm hopeful that this is a test for lowering the ranges of radar across the board. 11.7's fine with one of them, I guess, because it only lasts 20-30 seconds, and then maybe that they'll do something about the Demonis and the Minotaur and some of these other long ones. I still think that the Salem is probably the most balanced cruiser out there with its radar at 8.5, because it is, you have to risk something you got to risk it for the biscuit. Does that make sense? So this is a great change for destroyers. It's very hard destroyer life right now. And I think that long radar that goes for 45 to 50 seconds kind of slows the game down. Thoughts?
I think it's nice that they're at least starting to address the issue of radar a little bit, where they're starting to see that it potentially has it is potentially too strong, especially with the ability for it to just straight up cut through islands and just spot something that, it just basically doesn't do what radar did in real life, where it scans either in a circle or in a set direction, and it basically picks up everything instantaneously. It's not like there's even a delay or anything. you don't even have time to react. It's just, all right, and your radar.
There you go. I mean, there was a couple of things that we talked about. I can't remember if it was here on the podcast or on the stream. But if they did, since it is a sweeping event, it starts at one point and then goes around, right? And every time that little line would blip around, it would blip the screen. So why wouldn't it be something that they could also implement is a sweeping radar? Right, so it would circle around that 9 kilometers, and every time it would hit something, it would actually spot it for 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then it would fade away. So it wouldn't be this constant. Okay, it's spotted for the entire time, and that would give radar. Radar would lose some of its effectiveness, but it would still give away the position, so they would still have to adjust. I hope if that makes sense. I hope I explained it. Correctly. But as I've said many times before, the biggest problem with radar is not because it goes through the islands. Yes, that's it. That is an issue, but that's not the biggest issue. It is the range and the length of time that it's actually on. So once they fix these things, then they could go look at putting in more realistic things that people want to say.
Yeah, it would be a little bit interesting if, at least how I would imagine they could tweak radar is if you're going to make it into like a sweeping cone and it makes it automatically sweep around the ship in a circle, then I feel like you have to increase the duration of it to be longer.
Agreed. For
the range that it has, because then it would just be ineffective if you only get like maybe 5-10 seconds of spotting on, especially like an American radar that goes out 9.9 on the DM and it lasts for like 48 seconds. That's not fair to have 48 seconds of active duration and you only spot something for like
10, 15 seconds of those. Yeah. No, I totally agree.
10, 15 seconds.
I totally agree. I mean, they could do it with they do it with hydro at 2 minutes long. I think 2 minutes is still too much for hydro on some of these boats, especially like the Z52 and some of these things, because when you're playing ranked and you're in a Z52 and you're going to that C cap on hotspot, it's just all it is a stalemate for that entire hydro duration. Once that hydro goes down, then you can make moves. It definitely slows the game down a little bit, but it's definitely an interesting thing. You extend the radar time, and so it becomes an effective tool for the cruisers to actually use it. As a destroyer player, I think radar is a little broken. When you sit there and you realize, oh my gosh, this guy risks nothing. He can cover this cap and be in complete safety the entire time while I'm getting hammered by 6 other dudes.
Oh yeah.
So with that aspect and that mentality of it, we have also gone into thinking that maybe you have to be within this range like a cyclone to be able to see this guy.
Yeah.
Like that guy at 18 kilometers is getting rewarded for him being at 18 kilometers when he should be pushing in as well. So if you're within that 9 kilometers as well, then you get to see the guy too. So who knows? I mean, that's some more. Let's bring the game closer together action as opposed to throwing it apart. Almost like the smoke change that I had thrown out there. People, fine, you spot me at 7 kilometers, but that guy at 8 kilometers can't see me until he gets within that 7. Same thing with the cyclone. I mean, it's just bringing the cyclone mechanics and expanding them to other aspects of the game.
So basically, it's like you see the outline of the ship where it's moving, but you can't physically see the ship rendered on your screen.
Yeah, so you might still, if you're lucky enough to get some halfway decent dispersion, you might still be able to pop him through that little circle that they put on the mini-map on that. So who knows? I mean, it's an interesting idea. There is rumblings that radar is changing. Through some very good sources that I tend to believe, and I have no reason to not believe the guy, but radar, they are taking a good look at radar from a developer, from a developer standpoint. So interesting changes on that. I'm glad that these are changing. Maybe they'll do something about the Minotaur, and although maybe the Minotaur doesn't need a radar change because it gets slaughtered anyway. No matter you touch it once and it's goodbye.
Yeah, it's not like playing a Seattle or a Worcester where you at least have a 25 millimeter bow, so you have immunity from 15-inch shells. And you see a Henry that has 240s. A 240 is it's like
Huge.
A 10-inch. It's like a 10-inch gun, but even that will go through the Minotaur.
Right.
On the bow or the stern, and you could still get citadeled by it. So it's like, as a Minotaur, if you play radar, you have to have titanium balls to do that, especially if you're going to do it open water and not just sitting behind an island.
Well, we do it in ranked, and we played it in ranked. We didn't play it much this season, but last season we did it in ranked, and we would get maps continuously like Mountain Range, and I would go to the offside cap. I don't like going into sea because that's just another stalled out side of the map, and you run across the A cap, and then you come down, making your way toward the far islands where nobody's supposed to go, and then as soon as you get spotted, you hit your radar, and then boom, you and the DD that are there can focus down that other DD, and then once your DDs are gone, guess what? You become a giant destroyer because nothing outspots you at that point. So that was definitely a mental way, and congratulations to Leah. Her as Leah, she ranked out her first rank out season ever in the Radar Minotaur.
Yep, she did it, and I think it was 200 games. I think it was 200 games flat. She said she did like 80 something in Edinburgh at tier 8, and then she did like 120 with the Minotaur.
God, that's insane because it took me 412 games to rank out. And that's playing a Radar Yu Yang. So congratulations to her, man. That's awesome. Did you rank out yet?
I ranked out actually about like 2.5, 3 weeks ago right now. There's actually a video that Fury Atomic made, and it was funny because it showed the tier 10 ranked experience. He has an awesome, like, it shows off he's playing the DM. You see the salt flowing through chat, and then he had one blooper where he got rammed by a curve first, and he gets pushed out of a cap on A on Warrior's Path.
Oh, man.
And then it got into the segment where he said his ranked season turned because I dev striked him in his Des Moines, and then he had an entire segment going for like a good 2 minutes straight where he's just getting smacked to bits in his DM, and it's hilarious. But
that's hilarious. That's awesome, man. Yeah, you ranked out way before I did.
Yeah, I did it in 192 games, 191 games at like a 56% win rate.
Yeah, I think I was at 51% or something like that. I don't know. I had 300 games in the Yu Yang, and I won 200 of them. I feel
like I was just lucky that I ranked out another 200 games, because for a brief period there was some matches where I was just questioning, am I going to be able to rank out by 200? Because
dude, let me tell you something, man. I had 108 games to hit rank 5, and that's going from 13. All right.
Oh God.
Yeah. 13 to 5 was 108 games, and then I had to play 107 games just to hit rank 4 for the first time. So it was definite big chunks, and then I hit rank 3 and then dropped all the way to 6 in one afternoon, and so then I took a day off and then came back, and then we pounded back through it. It was less than 50, 60 games to get finished, but it was pretty good ending. So guys, if anybody's out there, they have any questions for myself or Static, you guys just reference them at Static, the Warmonger, or at SirVenomIK here in the chat. And if you guys have your own particular rank stories and you guys want to tell us how long it took you, how many games, and what your win rate was, go ahead and put those in there, and then we'll get to those a little bit later. But there you go. There's our segue about ranked. Ranked is changing with the next patch. A little short season. Ranked duo tier 5. What do you think of this?
I think that's going to add a pretty interesting dynamic, because now you have to take into account that it's not just going to be like you see one person on the enemy team and it's going to be a threat. Now you're going to see two people that are in voice comms that are working, synergizing with each other to make sure that they don't lose the game. That's going to definitely be something that's going to be very hard to deal with. But then the other thing you run into is, what happens if it's a two-man div of really good people and you don't have a two-man div of really good people on your team?
Other than yourself.
Then, of course, other than yourself. And then you also have to take into account, which ships are they taking in, what ships do you have, and how are you going to counter them?
Right. We were doing this last night. We were going through the tech tree, and we were looking at what would be good for ranked tier 5. And the first two that jump out at me are what, boys? The Julius Caesar, obviously, that's an obvious choice. The Kamikaze and all its clones, an obvious choice. And then we started thinking about, what about cruisers? The Kirov is going to be dirty.
Oh,
the Kirov is going to be dirty, right?
Yeah, Kirov's going to be filthy.
Yeah. What else is going to be filthy? The Nicholas is going to be real solid for a gunboat style. I think that's probably got the best guns at the tier. Maybe the John Wayne, but I mean, there you go. You do limit yourself with the John Wayne because of the deep water torpedoes. Is it viable? I still have a hard time taking the whole 300 games that I took the Yu Yang in. I was like, do I really want to take this because I can't hit these DDs? And it was very frustrating. But you do make up for it a little bit because I could outgun everybody except for a Grazovoy, a Kebab, and a Haragumo. So there you go. That what do you take? You get. Who knows? We'll definitely get it. I think one of the biggest problems that I'm going to have is we're going to get those terrible divisions, those terrible divs, and it's going to be some of the lower quality clans that I don't really want to call out their clan, but that starts with an F and ends with an Alco. You're gonna get those type of clans that are absolutely terrible, and they're gonna be on your team, and it's gonna be 4 of those guys and 2 of you, and you guys aren't gonna be able to carry them. You understand? And this is the issue. If you have 1 on your team, you can kind of carry it. If you have an AS, a samurai man on your team, and he's just terrible, and he's always been terrible, and nothing that he has done is terrible or is good, then what do? You can handle 1 of those guys, but now you have 2 of them or 4 of them on your team. This is a loss. I wish there was a concede button that you could just quit out of the game early and go jump into another one as quickly as possible.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be frustrating for sure. Just seeing the 2-man potatoes and then you having nothing to be able to offset that on the enemy team, where they just get like, let's say it's 77 8v8, and they have no 2-man div on the enemy team. Let's just assume they have no 2-man div on the enemy team, and your team has 2 2-mans. But your 2 2-mans are sub 40%ers, and everybody on the enemy team is average, like 50, 51%.
Well, then I'm not on every team. I can't play every boat, man.
Yeah.
The averageness.
Right, but then it's like, how do you offset having like 4 people on your team that are like sub 40% when the enemy team has like 50s and 51s?
There's not much that you could do. You just go out there and try to save your star, and that's unfortunate. Now, are they going to save stars by duo partners? Well, you guys were the top 2. You both get to keep your star.
That's going to be something that's going to be interesting.
That's going to be an interesting thing. I mean, like, I do well. My partner doesn't do. My partner does well, but I do just a little bit better than him, and we lose the game. And I get to move up to the next bracket, and he doesn't get to move up to the next bracket, or he moves out of the bracket that we're currently in. Now I can't play with my duo partner because of the star thing, or are they just going to have it to where nobody keeps a star?
I think the way that would make it balanced for the save a star mechanic, if they keep that, is if a solo person manages to be top on the losing team, they should be able to save the star. But if you are in a div with somebody else and both of you do quote unquote equally well, it's just one person outscores the other, or one person scores physically second place. Like, let's say both people have like 1205 XP on a loss, but one person's placed physically second. Then I think both people should lose the star and nobody gets the same one on the losing team.
Kind of like a draw. Nobody gets a star.
Yeah, nobody gets a star.
Yeah. All right.
And the reason
I'm okay
why
with that.
I think that would be balanced and fair, because that wouldn't be fair to have 2 people being allowed to save a star just because they're dipped up together, because then that doesn't make it fair for the solo players.
One guy goes in, forgets his det flag, and then he gets detonated, but you guys happen to lose the game, but your teammate did monster numbers, and then the guy that got detonated, he has 100 experience, gets to keep his star. I agree with the non-fairness on that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the save a star. I think they, according to this last season, I don't know, what did you play during your ranked season this season?
So I started off, I wanted to try out the tier 8. And unfortunately, because I hit rank 1 the previous season, it started me off at like rank 13.
Right.
So I started off and I did Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I went from 13 to 10 with Republic. And then it was like an 80 game struggle just trying to get into rank 5. I don't know why it took so long, but I kept getting like Mong teams, DDs that didn't know what they were doing. They would charge into a cap. No, there's 2 radars in the enemy team. Get radared, get blapped, complain the team didn't support them, and then we get rolled after like 7 minutes. Like I'm talking about, we either get pointed out or we lose every single one of our ships.
Right.
And it took me to like 85, 90 games to get to rank 5, and then after that, it was a struggle staying in 5. I went from 5-0
I don't know
to,
where the dog is. Go find him.
I went from like 5-0 to 6-3, like, man, I imagine 6 or 7 different times throughout the season, and it was just really frustrating.
I couldn't make any. It took me a long time to make any headway into rank 5. 6 was the bane of my existence, and then when I hit 3 was the bane of my existence. But it leads to this next question though. Do they need to change the experience gain in the rank system? And let me give you an example why. I had 138,000 damage. I had 2 kills. I had 3 caps, and we lost the game. And I kept my star by 4 points. And I'm playing a DD now. 3 solo caps, 2 kills, 138,000 damage, and I kept my star by 2 points to a battleship who had no kills, no caps. And all he had was his damage.
What that comes down to then is, because the way XP is broken down, of course, is percent of health dealt to certain ship types. So, like if you deal full damage to a DD, that's valued more than dealing half damage to a battleship, because while you get more damage physically from smacking the battleship just for the raw damage, the DD has, you're dealing a more higher percentage of health to the DD, and plus the DD also offers more tactical play. The DD is the eyes, it's the capping, it's the defending,
right?
It's it's the screening.
Also consider this: I was screening, I was capping, I was spotting. I'd have to go look at the I'd have to go back and look at the ending totals, but I want to say I had 7 or 8 spotting ribbons. And I think that they've done and it's all because of the Sims. Let's be fair. It's all because of the Sims during that last Tier 7 rank season that they had. People go in 40,000 damage. They cap 2 caps, and they kept their star by almost thousands at some point because of the experience boost on that Sims altogether. So because of that Sims, they've lowered cap experience to kind of even out the stars. But now I think this season it is very noticeable about there's no justice in playing a DD. And the reason there's no justice in it, because even if you are doing your job, there's some games where you have a 0 damage, but you've spotted everything, you've capped everything, you weren't able to get a whole lot of torpedo hits, and you're not being rewarded for the rest of the game. And they've gone and done something to it to where it's totally damage based. You have to do damage, and that's not what the DDs are about. So I think that the destroyers are a little left out here in the experience gain section when it comes to keeping your star and the ranked and everything.
Yeah, I noticed that for sure. This season when I played, I ended up getting so desperate at one point to try and stay in the rank 5-2 bracket. I played Z52 for like 8 games. I don't understand why it's so hard for some people to comprehend how you have to play a DD, because it's like most of the time, all you have to do, wet yourself by a rock, wait out the radar, however many there are. It could be 2, could be 3, could be 4 radars, could be a Z52 Hydro. Sit there, wait it out, call for focus fire, people move around the map, get the radar out, get the cap, all right, good to go. All you gotta do now, spot, force the enemy team, they have to make the play. They have to push into you because you have the 1 cap, the enemy team has the 1 cap, but now you've taken the 3rd one. Like, if you take C cap on mountain range, and it was so simple because all you had to do was just wait it out. But the problem was, if the people on your team didn't know what they needed to be doing, like if radar cruisers were just sitting in the back, if battleships weren't pushing up, if nobody was flanking around to the sides to try and get cross shots in on the destroyer in that third cap circle, you couldn't do anything. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah, and that leads to a lot of other issues, personal issues of my own about that map, and the reasons why I never go to Charlie when I'm on that map is because I never got help. I did it all last season, never got the help. The guys never shot the, we've been on Mountain Range for how many seasons in a row? 4. Tier 8, the 2 tier 10s, and I think there was one before that we were on Mountain Range as well, and never could get the guys to shoot the radar boats, never could get the guys to shoot the Chappie. In that Tier 8 season, we never could get the guys to actually push up and support the cap. So I've decided that I don't trust anybody to support me in this cap. So what's the difference between them getting that cap and me dying?
Yeah,
I think I would be more effective on the flank, hunting the DDs where there's not so much crap around. So I have gone through and just bypass that cap altogether and just don't play that side of the map, to a detriment on some games, but to a bonus on the others. So I mean, what you give up, you get around. What you give up on that side of the map, we have more pressure and more ability to the other side of the map. So is it a wash? I guess it depends, but certain situations. So all right. So let's move on into the next thing. We're talking about radar. We talked about the ranked Tier 5 season coming up. Are you going to play the ranked Tier 5 season? I never asked.
I have intentions of participating in it, yes. It'll be interesting to see the abundance or overabundance of having, for sure, a DD heavy meta, because everybody and their mother is going to be taking out a Kamikaze R, a Fujin, because it has great concealment, it has a fast speed, it's still got 4 120mm guns, I believe, or it might be, I think it's 4, and then of course it has the deadly 3 sets of double torps that it can launch. So
they hit like a truck, dude.
Yeah, no, those torps hurt like crazy.
Yeah, but 3 or 4 of them will kill a battleship, I guess, if they just don't sail straight. It'll be interesting to see what CVs are going to do in this. I mean, I'm not going to play a CV. If it's Tier 5, you got Bogue and you got Zuiho, and they're auto-dropping. Yeah. Auto-dropping is going to hurt the DDs. Auto-dropping, honestly, they never should have gone away from the manual drops, but my Lord, it's going to be an interesting CV event. So you're going to see some Texases, you're going to see some Koenigs, and what's the Tier 5? Is it the Koenig?
Tier 5 German battleship will be the Koenig. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that thing with AA spec is ridiculous, by the way, if you didn't know. So that you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of everything. You're probably going to see these guys that have had the Grimmies for a long time use the Grimmy.
Gosh, I forgot about the Grimmy, actually.
Yeah, they're going to be. I honestly, I think that the Grimmy has lost a lot when the stealth fire nerf hit. This has been years ago, so it's not as good as it used to be. I honestly think that they could probably put it back out for sale again because it's not as overpowering as it is now, or as it used to be. So that's a little my 2 cents there on the Grimmy. I never played it, but I have played against it, and I don't fear it like I used to.
Nah, because before it would just literally pepper you at like its maximum range, and I think it fires out to like 14.1 or something like that, which is pretty dumb because you basically have a Tier 5 cap. The only difference is you have half the firepower. Instead of 8 130s, it's 4 130s.
Right. So moving on, we got 2 more things to talk about here for the news. The Halloween event's coming up. I'm pretty stoked about that. Everybody wanted subs for a long time in this game. Everybody didn't want subs for a long time in this game. They even said there will never be subs in our game, and then he decided, he was like, whatever, things change, and then eats a sandwich and walk off. Did you see that video?
That was funny. That was actually the chieftain.
That was like spot on, man. I thought that video was absolutely hilarious. And
it was hilarious because you had the first part of it, and it's like, I know that a while ago I said that subs would never be coming to this game, and then it literally goes to the flashback, and it's like, submarines will never be entering World of Warships. They will never, ever be in our game. Pan out. Yeah, well, things kind of change. Looks at the sandwich, eats it, walks off.
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
They have another promo with Alexander Ovechkin. He's a hockey player. If any of you guys follow hockey, he plays for the Washington Capitals. Won the Stanley Cup this year. We watched it last night on the stream. It's a pretty good. They're just trying to get some more hype for the game to bring new people into the game, and that's good. That's a good thing for the game. Talk about this Halloween event real quick. Have you played it at all? Have you gone onto the PTS? I have not gone onto the PTS. I've been watching people like Ashley and some of the morning guys watch it, watching them play it, and they seem. I can see there's going to be a lot of strategery involved, which is right up my alley. So I can't wait till it goes live and I can get my hands on it.
Yeah, I haven't played it yet. I haven't updated my PTS, but I know I've been watching Ashley, aka Ashley, when she was playing it. She was playing the Svatazar, which is the chap. Oh man, I love the amount of detail that they put into it, because you have all those green textures, all the green fog, you have all these different mechanics, but it's not like you just go in, you die, and you don't have a good time.
Right.
And I think that's the most important part about the Halloween event is you're getting in, you're having fun with other people, and you're shooting and blowing stuff up.
Well,
and it's not serious either.
No. I've played the last 3 seasons, or the last 3 Halloween events, and the first one was amazing. The second one last year was fantastic. I really enjoyed the last one, and then this one, I can't wait. Like I said, man, I can't wait to do it. We usually do a couple of days on it. We'll play it for the first couple of hours of a stream, and then we'll come back. Anybody that does not have 5 stars on this thing, or if you haven't got your boxes or whatever, let's get this done now. And I'll be honest with you, I still have the Halloween camos from 3 years ago, because you were able to really farm those camos out. And I ended up with like 200 to 300 camos, and I still have yet to use them over the course of 3 years, or 2 years now, since the first event has been done. So that's pretty cool. So Halloween event's coming up with the next patch as well, with the ranked Tier 5 season. One more thing we want to talk about, the new fix for the do you have any more comments on Halloween event?
I look forward to it. I want to play it on the PTS first before it gets released live when Halloween actually comes around, but I do look forward to it.
All right,
probably going to be playing the Magnus just to have my secondaries blazing, but
sounds like fun. All right, so spotting system. There was a big to-do about the spotting system being on a 2-second delay from when it popped up on the mini-map to when it popped up actually in-game. And it took stuff like the Benson from being 5.8 kilometer detectability, and with that delay, it popped up at 5.6. Now they were still detected, but there was that delay, and it ruined a lot of plays, and it ruined a lot of things for other destroyers when you have to rely on that detection and it's not working correctly. It hinders stuff like the Harikaze and other things like that rely on its detectability. It ruins that immersion that you get with boats like that. So with the fix, have you seen a difference?
I've noticed for sure that at close range, you don't have that same 2-3 second rendering delay where basically a ship gets, it's shown as being physically detected. You can see the red outline of it on the minimap, but the ship doesn't appear on your screen. They fixed that for close range, but at far range, that's still a little bit of a problem where a ship may be detected sometimes even for like 5-6 seconds at like 18, 19 kilometers. And then they finally pop up, but by then, it might be too late to take your shot, or they may already be back out of their detection range from whatever was spotting them. So it's been fixed for the short range, but I've not noticed it fixed for the long range. But it does help because when you're in those close quarter situations and you need something to be spotted right there and it's right in front of your face and it doesn't pop up for X amount of time for whatever reason, it becomes very frustrating because if it's like something that you should have been able to deal with already, but it hasn't been dealt with yet because of, basically an error or a glitch.
I totally agree. I mean, we've been looking at the videos. They've put out 3 videos now on how spotting works, or a couple of videos now on how spotting actually works, and it makes a little bit of a sense of why that there's still some delay from range. If you're not in that cone or in that circle of your range, and the guy fires from outside of your range, it's gonna make you're not going to see the guy. So it kind of makes a little bit of sense, but when you put up a spotter plane and your range goes out to 30 kilometers when you can see them, maybe we need to relook at that at range. But up close, played a lot of DDs over the course of the last couple of days with the new DD or British DDs coming out, which we'll talk about that after this. I've noticed that it's pretty good. I think that there's still. I had a delay yesterday with my hydro. My hydro on the Cossack is 3 kilometers, and the guy didn't show up till 2.7. So there was a little delay on that, and which wasn't game breaking, and I didn't die. I killed the guy, but it was like I was like, whoa, wait a second, this is 3 kilometers. Why did he finally show up at 2.7? So that could still need a little bit of tweaking for hydro. So guys, go out there and hydro and see if it's actually working as intended, and then we can address this. We can put this into a bug ticket or a bug report, or hey, we need some explanation. Is this supposed to be working this way or not? So guys, go out there and look at that. So. That's it. Any more on that? So far, all the rest of it was pretty good, pretty solid things. Haven't had any issue with the detectability up close. Playing destroyers, battleships, maybe a little bit, but nothing too ridiculous. I don't know about you.
I haven't noticed any glitches or anything. I've tried to play the Jervis. I don't know why. I can't really get the hang of that. And the mid-tier DDs don't... I don't know. I'm not really a mid-tier DD player, so I'll check those out eventually, but I haven't gotten to them yet, at least on the live client. In the released form, so...
Well, we'll keep you guys posted on our findings on that. All right, so last thing, part of the news, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes of our discussion tonight, which is cruisers. The Royal Navy British DDs are out, sorta. If you're lucky enough to get it. I went for the first probably week and a half just having the Tier 5 Acasta, and then we got the Icarus last night, and I have yet to unlock it, but I have been playing the Cossack. Your thoughts on these, man, real quick?
My thoughts on the British DDs, I think they offer more of an interesting approach to how DDs can operate because... Well, there are things I can't say because of NDA, but
don't give away anything.
Yeah, but so far, with the Icarus, I like that they do the early releases like this, where they have, like the Icarus, the Acasta, the Jervis, and the Lightning, as well as, releasing the Cossack as the premium. I like that they're doing these early releases because it allows people to get a feel for what are the DDs going to be capable of doing as you progress through the line.
Agreed.
And plus, it decreases first day release. You're trying to grind the first ship. You go in, you get the tier 3. Oh look, there's 700 other of the same destroyer in this matchmaking bracket. You load in, it's like a 12v12, all the same ship, and you're like, why?
I'm on both sides of the fence here. Number one, I got into this game and stayed around this game for so long because of the grind, because of the longevity and the amount of games that it took to get from tier 1 ship to a tier 10 ship. That is what I enjoy about games. I'm learning throughout the whole thing so I feel it as kind of an affront to the players, like, okay, we're going to give you up to tier 8. Now all you have to do is grind this, and you're done grinding that within a week and a half, because that's the only thing left I have to grind out to tier 10, right? And now what do I do? Now I got to wait for the next line to come out, which they're going to give me that tier 8, and now I'm like, I want this long grindy thing. So when I pull the Icarus last night, I was kind of sad because, well, now I have no reason to play the Acasta, because all I have to do is go play the Icarus now. And I think that it's a bad thing for them to give away 3/4 of the line, because they want. It's like, okay, we spent months and months on this content. Now forget about that content. Here's tier 8. Go play that. And on the other side of it, I remember when the German battleships came out, there was no giveaway for the line. So here you go. Here's everybody at tier 3, 700-800 700-800 Nassaus sitting in the thing, which does allow for the 29 to 30 game win streak that we went on, going from 3 to 4. We went from 3 to 7 in one night. The three guys, or me and the two other guys that I was playing with, in the German battleship. So it's a good thing, and then it's a bad thing. It's like it's a good thing because you're not going to get that big ball of goo at 3 and 4 and 5. So it's a little bit more spread out, but it's a bad thing because they've wasted their time. They've wasted their time putting out these boats just to give it all away.
I feel like if they made it to where they didn't give out a tier 8, because tier 7 is about roughly, I would say overall, maybe 40% of the XP required to get to a tier 10 ship. So if you give away an 8, that's giving away a little bit too much, because especially for like people like me where I have like XP flags, I have like free XP flags, I have commander XP flags, I would just be able to grind that ship, get the tier 9, grind that ship, get the tier 10, and I could do that in a day and a half. Which that would ruin the point of having the entire tech tree line, is if you just start from a set point. So I can agree with you that you don't like releasing at least the higher tiered ones.
Right.
But if they released it just to a 7, and a 7 might be stretching it,
honestly,
that would be better.
Honestly, if they're going to do this, I think that maybe they rethink and just go ahead and give away the 3, 4, and the 5, and now we have or up to 6. Don't even go to 7 and 8, because 7 is where tier 7 is where the line shifts, right? I'm not saying that this particular line shifts, but the game shifts at tier 5 and the game shifts at tier 7 to differences, right? So everything pretty much cruiser-wise or destroyer-wise or battleship-wise pretty much plays the same until tier 5. And at tier 5, there's a fundamental shift in the cruiser strength and the battleship strength. Cruisers, you have to play a little bit smarter at tier 5. And the same thing with tier 7. Destroyers, you have to play smart at tier 7 in destroyers. So get them through that first fundamental shift of give those away, and then let us grind through and learn how to adjust to the rest of the game at 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's that. I think that's will be. I think
you don't want
somebody that's being better.
You don't want somebody that's completely inexperienced. They start off, they get the mission for the ship, they grind it out over like 3, 4, 5 days. They get the ship, and then like, wow, I have a tier 8 ship. But then it's like when they go in and play it, not only do they not have experience with maybe playing that ship class, but they have absolutely no idea what the playstyle of that ship is going to be. Because some people, they just click a ship, they forget to load it with modules, they forget to load it with flags, they forget to put premium consumables on it, and then they just take it into battle, and they don't even look at the stats. They don't look, what health does it have? What armament does it have? What's the reload time on the guns? What's the reload time on the torch? What's the torpedo range? What's the speed of the ship? All that different stuff.
Well, there is a learning curve with any ship that you just get, right? And coming off of a ranked season into a release like this is pretty good for the people that play DDs, like myself and anybody else out there that play DDs, because you have a very patient play style. You're going to do very well for the first 2 to 3 weeks of a new line, because you're going to still have that ranked mentality. You're going to be patient. You're going to wait for things. You're going to wait for the game to develop before you make moves. Now, after about a week of playing this boat that way, you're going to have to try to push this boat and see what you can get away with, and that's one things that I despise about community contributors and super testers or anything like that. When they put out a review, their initial reactions are, this thing is trash. This thing is bad. I mean, like the Alaska was a perfect prime example. I heard a lot. I've read a lot of reviews about this thing. I've heard a lot of streamers, a lot of community contributor streamers at that, saying this thing is terrible. This thing does not do what it's supposed to do, or is doing something different than what they had anticipated it is. And they've only played the boat 3 times at that point. And I'm like, I can't respect that opinion at all whatsoever until you play 30, 40 games in this thing. You play it safe, you play it risky, you play it long range, you play it up close. You have to really get your hands on this boat, get yourself into trouble, and try to get out of it.
Because if you don't, if you don't play a ship enough, you don't get the general feel for it, you don't understand how it operates, and then you just kind of sit there and you complain about all the things that you perceive as being weaknesses or problems associated with the ship when it's just in fact player skill, whether it be lacking or just, bad internet, game DCs, lag, whatever. But generally, it is the player and not the ship.
I totally agree, and the biggest complaint that I've heard so far, and this is kind of getting off of the subject, but it still kind of fits the same way. The Acasta is terrible.
Oh my God.
I've gone into the Acasta and have absolutely dominated in that thing. I'm like, I don't see why this is terrible. I don't get it. I mean, I know the gun traverse is pretty bad, but the rest of it, I seem it's on par. It's on par with the rest of the line at Tier 5. I mean, it's not the best at Tier 5, but it's definitely not the worst. It's right in the middle, where it needs to be.
Yeah, it's like there's things it excels at, there's things it doesn't excel at, but that's what makes it balanced to fit in with other similar ships of the same ship type for that tier bracket.
Yes, I feel that it's pretty balanced with it tier, but balanced doesn't necessarily mean good. Does that make sense? Right. So there is something to be said with that. But my hands on the Cossack, that thing is phenomenal. And people were saying that the Cossack is not as good as the Lightning. I can't attest to that at all because I have not played the Lightning, but I have enjoyed every game that I have played in the Cossack. I have absolutely enjoyed every one of them. That thing, guys, if y'all haven't got it yet, save up for the guineas and get it with the guineas, or if you want, buy it right now. It's worth it. It's worth every penny you're going to spend on it, and play it like a stealthy gunboat, and you can dominate those caps. That's mine. Have you played the Cossack?
I don't own the Cossack. I could probably buy it and play it on stream if anybody would have a ship request for that. But the main thing is right now I have. Let me check my arsenal right here. Actually, I don't have enough guineas to be able to buy. I think it's the sovereigns actually, right?
No, it's the guineas. The thing about the guineas is though you can only gain 48 guineas throughout this thing. So you guys have to go to the store, spend $1 to get those 10 guineas. That's the only caveat to this. I don't know why they did it. Well, yes, I do, because they wanted to get $1 out of people, and and that's fine. $1 for 10 of them. That's okay. So you guys can do this if you buy it. Now check this out. If you buy the Cossack with your money now, and then you unlock it with the guineas later, you're going to get the doubloon value back for that ship. So it ends up being a wash for you if you do this $1 thing. Not only that, but if you save up the sovereigns, you're going to be able to get the Gallant and the Warspite doubloon value as well. So we're talking 9,000 just for the Warspite and the Gallant together if you buy both of those with your sovereigns. So think about that when you guys are moving forward and making your decision if you want to get this or not. All right. Any more comments on the British DDs?
No, but I do like that you did mention that if you do already own the Cossack and then you buy it again with the guineas, that it does, you will be compensated for it with the doubloon value as opposed to the credit value, which is what they usually do. But that's why I think that this
as far as I know,
is pretty nice.
Now I know that they said that you would be able to get the Warspite and the Gallant that way. I don't know if the Cossack is going to be the same. So play it by ear on that. But going by their record or going by this event altogether, they're doing it for these two. I don't see why they wouldn't do it for the other one.
Yeah, so we'll need confirmation for that one, but for sure, the Gallant and the Warspite, you do get the doubloon value.
All right, so Royal Beer Hat says Warspite's confirmed he did get it, the doubloon value. So there you go. All right, so moving on, guys, we're talking with my boy Static the Warmonger. You guys can follow him over at Twitter on @statikthwarmonger. Go over there and follow him there. And also, you guys can head over to his channel at twitch.tv/statikthewarmonger. If one of my mods wants to put that link in there, you guys could go over there and follow and watch that guy because he's dope. And I love his headband. I just wish I had hair to hold up my headband. So, anyway, moving on. Now we'll come into the big discussion here, the state of the cruisers. in the game today. I personally think, now this is my own personal opinion, this will probably be the only personal opinion that I have here, and the rest of it's going to try to be as unbiased as I possibly can. And before I say this, one more time for a disclaimer, this is a very cruiser-friendly stream right now on this podcast. We are going to talk things that will improve the cruisers. We're going to talk where they're failing, where they need to be buffed, where they're too strong. We're going to talk everything cruiser. So take it with a grain of salt. If you guys disagree, just pay attention and keep an open mind about what we're trying to say here. So, what are your initial thoughts on the state of cruisers right now?
I think cruisers offer a wide array of unique gameplay, more so different from, especially, battleships that usually have bigger armor, more health, sit in the back, and DDs that have less health, higher, better surface detect, better concealment, and a higher torpedo threat, because you have such a wide variety. You have light cruisers, you have heavy cruisers, and then when you get up into the higher tiers, not only does the rate of fire on the guns generally increase, but the damage increases, the speed increases, the armor increases, but then you start to bring in a whole lot more variables that people have to take into account. Like French cruisers have engine boost and main battery reload booster module, or the consumable. Mm-hmm. British cruisers have a smoke screen and a print, and they have the option to mount radar in place of the smoke. You have, 9.9 kilometer radar from the Des Moines, 9.45 kilometer from the Seattle, from the Buffalo. You have the 11.7 kilometer radar of the Russians. All these different things play into making it to where you have to be able to pay attention and understand what your different opponents are going to be and what their strengths and weaknesses are.
Great. Now, by print, he means he's got a god heel. He's got the conqueror heel, if it were, or what we have deemed here the British heel. So that's what he means by print. I tend to agree with you. They are very strong. I think that the higher you go, the less versatile the playstyle is. It doesn't really. You play in the Hindenburg the same way every game. You're playing the Zhao the same way every game. You're playing the Henry the same way every game. You're playing all of these cruisers exactly the same every game. The Moskva, you're going to roll up to this plot and you're going to sit there and tank. That's your gerb. You're going to roll up in a war chester behind an island and try to hump over the island. These are the things. These are the things that I feel that the cruiser is lacking on as a versatility of their gameplay. This is the downfall of them. There are some very big bonuses. Ridiculous range, 20 kilometer plus range, ridiculously high fire chance. The Zhao, the Hindenburg, pretty much all of them are ridiculous fire starters. AP on some of these things are very strong. Talking Hindenburg, the Henry, APs are extremely strong. So they're probably the strongest class at tier 10, if we're talking about tier 10 only. Underneath that, you're pretty versatile. You could pretty much get away with most of everything from tier 6 and below on cruisers. You can camp if you want to, give or take a couple of boats here at Omaha, the American, Pensacola, stuff like that. You're going to get citadeled if you sit still too much. So you have to kind of move there. Moving up to tier 7 is a real heavy cruiser. Cruisers dominate tier 7 and they dominate tier 10. And the rest of the game kind of balances itself out in between those two tiers, to where the cruisers aren't as strong as everything else, or they're just as strong as everything else. But tier 7 and 10 are the strongest for cruisers, hands down.
Oh, by far, because at 7, you have ships like the Fiji and the Belfast, just to name them,
the
primarily
Atlanta,
because
the Atlanta,
Flint, just insanely high rate of fire, high damage per minute. It's just you have way more advantages compared to disadvantages on the ships.
Agreed. The disadvantages on the ships are kind of squishy at tier 7. They are kind of squishy, and if you can get lucky enough for the battleships, if we're talking about just tier 7 gameplay, I'm not talking about up tiering to 9. If we're just talking about tier 7 on its own, you are the king of the castle at tier 7. I don't care what anybody says about the battleships at tier 7. They're not as good as the cruisers. And the destroyers, they are good destroyers, but they cannot compare and they cannot compete with that firepower at tier 7. Now, though, in their own little world, they do fine against the destroyers and against the battleships, but when you come up against one of those cruisers, you're probably going to die, and you're going to die a horrible, birdie, fiery death because of it. The Boise, the new Nuevi di Giulio, those things are ridiculously strong. And we look at premiums at tier 7, and this will be another topic for another episode. But premiums at tier 7 are the strongest of the entire line. So other than the Fiji, I think that's probably still my tops at tier 7 is the Fiji for cruisers.
Fiji was definitely fun, and then of course you have ships like the Duca degli Abruzzi, which is something that I feel people don't really pay attention to because not that many people ended up getting it. But it has 10 fast firing 6-inch guns, and it's got a ridiculously high top speed of 35 knots, and then it has one thing that most people overlook: 12-kilometer torps.
Slow pedos. Trust me, I have this boat, and I don't play it very often, but when I do, I always enjoy myself. I always enjoy myself, and that thing slaughters destroyers. It doesn't do it. Let's put it this way: it doesn't do very much against battleships. Let's be fair. It sets fires. It does normal cruiser things, but it absolutely. I think that's probably one of the best dominating destroyer boat, other than a radar boat. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
It just absolutely slaughters destroyers. I mean, it's really, really good. And so let's talk about the downsides of cruisers here first. Let's go ahead and get those out of the way, and then we can talk about what we think we need to do to improve the cruiser gameplay to make it more fun for people. Because personally, my personal opinion, if I'm going to play in a higher tier, I'm just going to play something that I know I can dominate in. I feel like when I play a Zhao or I play a Hindenburg, I really don't feel like I do anything. And I look up at the score and I've got 130,000 damage, but we lose the game because we're not impacting the game enough to make it worthwhile, other than setting an ungodly amount of fires. So what do you think the downside of playing a cruiser is right now?
The downside of playing a cruiser, one will be not having experienced DD players or people that are playing DDs that know what they need to be doing, understanding that they have to be spotting certain ships at certain times, understanding that certain things have to be spotted to be eliminated first. That way you can get into a position where you can make it more advantageous for yourself or for your team.
Right. Well, and that kind of goes hands in hand with each other. I need this radar cruiser dead. So let's focus him down. Then I can get into my position to where I can help kill this DD, and then we can worry about that battleship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the second thing being you have to worry, too, about is your battleship competent? Is he just going to sit in the back? Does he have survivability expert? Is he going to be missing his shots? Is he firing high explosive? Is he sitting there complaining about how destroyer torpedoes are too strong or cruiser fire chances too high and he doesn't run fire prevention? Or he's not making any effort to dodge?
Must be playing with me.
No, but then it's like weaknesses of cruisers for sure, at least in terms of the actual ship class itself, when we're talking about not relying on something else to help you. Generally speaking, high citadels, long citadels, getting completely overmatched by battleship caliber armor-piercing shells through the bow and stern, or even through the deck in most cases. And then, of course, as you get into other ships like the Moskva and the Stalingrad and the Kronstadt, which are battle cruisers, they are classified as cruisers in the game, but let's be fair here. We all know they have guns that hit as hard as the battleships. And then you have the sluggish maneuverability. They're easier to farm. They're highly vulnerable. They have generally most cruisers have weak torpedo bulges. You can't eat more than maybe 2 or 3 torps before you're out of the action.
Well, the Moskva and the whole Russian line takes full damage. There's no torpedo belt.
Yeah,
no torpedo belt whatsoever. So if it says 13,000 on there, you're taking the 13,000, unless you're overset on that area. But
Yeah, so you eat like 2-3 torps, you're gonna be crippled for either the rest of the game or you're basically dead. There's no coming back from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing too, some of the consumables, like main battery reload booster, I feel like having nation-specific consumables and gimmicks kind of makes the learning curve for just specific lines a little bit more complicated. Because then if you go up only one line and you play only the one line and then you play another line, like let's say you go from French cruisers to British cruisers,
man. That's a terrible thing.
Yeah, you're going to be like, wow. Oh, wait. Why do I not get a main battery reload booster on my Minotaur? And it's like, then you're like, wait, why am I getting penned from like
everything.
Destroyer 5-inch high explosive? Why am I taking bow citadels from like these cruisers like the Henry and the Stalingrad? And it's just because people aren't adapting to the different playstyles of the different cruisers, but that's because some of them have gimmicks that arguably shouldn't exist.
Some of them have very unique play styles, which separates them from everything else. And I agree. I agree that they should have these gimmicks because it keeps the gameplay fresh. It keeps people like me who want to learn and enjoy learning things about the game. Even now, I want to learn how to play these DDs that are coming out really well. I want to go back in and reaffirm my not manhood, that's not the right word, but I want to go in and I want to reaffirm that, hey, my initial thinking grinding throughout these things is still good. I still can play this boat this way and still be effective playing this boat this way. But some things, when people come in here, what should I go down? I'm new to the game. What line should I go up first? And I always tell them, don't do the British cruisers. Any of them else are fine. Don't do the British cruisers first because it's a totally unique gameplay that does require a lot of paying attention skills and positioning better, and that you're not going to have for the first 2,000 games or 10,000 on some of these people. You're not going to have that. You're not going to have the skills that are required for you to play these boats effectively and enjoy these boats. Now you can enjoy them if you're a prodigy, but I highly recommend not playing the British cruisers first because there is a bigger skill cap on those than any of the other cruisers out there.
You will set yourself up for failure if you go down British cruisers first, because when you go and you play another cruiser class, you're going to be accustomed to having the print and the instant ability to vape and literally conceal yourself in the blink of an eye. And that's something that is,
no other cruiser,
I would say, detrimental to your learning process and your learning curve.
Right. So when I recommend people, I say start out. It's all the same until tier 4 basically, and then tier 5 is where it shifts. It shifts. There's a fundamental shift in the gameplay. You go from the Kuma to the Furry Taco, which is two totally different styles of play. So you have to relearn how to play cruisers from that point on at tier 5. So that's what I tell them. Work them all until you hit tier 5, and then take each one of them about 5 to 10 games and see what style you like. Do you like the up close and pew pew? Do you like the long range pew pew? Do you like the island humping type of pew pew? And then once you tell me how you want to play, then I can guide you with the rest of it. But stay away from the Brit ones because they're not for new players because you don't have that mentality of the skills.
No, absolutely not. That's another thing too. I like that you brought up where you're talking about the island hugging. I feel like that's a part of the reason why cruiser play has, I would say, stagnated down to having almost no skill, becoming just all farm, is because some maps, and I'm gonna point this out right away. C cap, that little V that goes from C cap to B cap on Sleeping Giant, you slip a Worcester into there,
you're in trouble.
You're not getting it out. Because you can't move around to kill it. Mm-mm. You can't go anywhere mid to shoot at it because there's that giant island that blocks it off on the north side, and there's that giant island that blocks it off on the south side. But it has just enough arc on those USN 6-inchers that you can get over that low-lying rock, but return shells coming in don't have a high enough arc to be able to penetrate you.
The only time that you're going to be able to hit that guy and penetrate him is if you are North Carolina or Yamato and you're sitting 20 kilometers away.
Oh yeah.
That's the only time you're gonna have enough arc to get it over there is if you're even further away. And even then, if your dispersion is good enough and you don't overpin the hell out of that guy, I'm sitting there trying to rack my brain and think. I think I've dev struck a Worcester one time because I detonated him. That's it.
Oh,
and that boat is so strong. We'll talk about the Worcester right now. That boat is ridiculously overpowered. And it is very strong. It is probably the strongest cruiser in the game just because it has a good heel, because you cannot penetrate this thing. I've rarely get citadels on the flat broadsides of things anymore. And it's a tough boat to kill.
I actually have a clip on my channel where I freaked the hell out when I got 4 citadels and a Worcester because I shot at it, and I literally said basically a prayer. I was like, RN Jesus, please, for once let me dev strike a Worcester in my WoW's career. And then 4 citadels, and I basically shit myself.
There you go. Well, I mean, hopefully you cleaned up nice. It looks like you cleaned up nice. You smell good from my end. Yeah, but I know it's totally viable. I mean, you can still do some of these things, but the amount of times that you see these dev strikes and the cruiser players and the destroyer players out there that think battleships are too strong, that rarely happens. Let's be fair. When's the last time you actually dev struck somebody? I have not dev struck somebody in a tier 10 cruiser in ages. Yes, I will chunk them for 20, 30,000, but they're not dying. They go dark, they heal up, and they come back because I don't have the reloads, to knock them out a second time. So on that note, I think that cruisers are very strong. The chances of you getting dev struck is your own mistake.
Yeah, if you're in a situation where you can get dev striked, whether it be by another cruiser, by destroyer torps, or by a battleship AP, if you've reached that point where getting completely deleted is more likely than you getting out, you have clearly messed up so bad that you're not going to be able to come back from that for that game. And that comes down to the positioning aspect of it, and that's also why I feel like so many cruisers opt for just taking range and then just sitting back and leaving their advantages, such as the German 5.8 kilometer hydro on the Hindenburg and the Rune. They just leave that and just sit it at 18, 19 kilometers and just shoot in because they feel like it's safer to sit back and farm than it is to move in and perform team play. And by screening stuff like that, because they feel like they're not going to get support.
I also blame that on us. And I'm going to take a little bit of that blame because that's how I play things as well. Because I want to get my damage, I want to be able to affect the game in a certain way and still do the damage and still feel like I'm doing something for the team. And there is a time and a place for that, but I think that people don't realize, and I mean, you're a streamer, and I've seen this in a lot of other streams as well, is they never make that push. And I've done it myself. They never push in when they need to. Battleships especially, destroyers especially, and cruisers as well. They don't have a feel or a flow for the game a lot of the times, and they're just out of the game the entire time. And they're on their own little world, and they're very selfish with their play style, and they need to be a little bit more giving to the rest of the team and go put themselves into danger. You know what? I don't mind dying. And I think a lot of this is attributed to the community as well, where, oh my God, you're a Hindenburg and you're in there and you died in the first 5 minutes, but you've done 70,000 damage to these guys. You've killed one destroyer and prevented them from doing anything. I think that's a good trade. Honestly, I mean, I think not. So there's a time and a place, just like the German battleships. And the reason why I hate those is because this early part of the game, you're not really doing much, and then there's a point where you have to make that decision. Okay, now's my spot. Now let's go push. Let's get all of our damage in this really short amount of time. And the community craps on you for pushing in and putting your boat at risk, so people are less likely to actually attempt at anything other than sitting way off in the back and farming your fires. What do you think?
I think that maybe they should add heals to some of the mid-tier and lower-tier cruisers, at least even if it's like a very minor one. That would give people more of an incentive to play a little bit more dangerously, because then at least you're not going to get completely punished for moving up and making a play when it needs to be done.
There is a little part of me that thinks the same thing, but then there's another part of me that's like, wow, what is this guy doing here? And I've said it. We said it last night. I death struck a guy last night, and I'm like, wow, what is this guy doing up here? But then I look at thinking back on it now, I look at the rest of the game that was going on. He was doing what he thought was necessary for his team to win the game, and it was late in the game, and we still had a DD out there, so he was pushing in to get this DD. And where did I hit him from? 12 kilometers, and he just happened to pop up within my 12 kilometer range. So he was trying to make a play, and I called him. We trashed on this guy, but he was doing his job. So yeah, maybe a little bit. Another down thing for cruisers is Tier 8.
Oh.
Tier 8. I love Tier 8 cruisers, and Tier 8 cruisers are very on par with everything else that is Tier 8. All right? You get a Tier 8 cruiser in a Tier 8 top tier game, it's going to do very well. Tier 9, it still does okay. Tier 10, it's a little overmatched. I think matchmaking at Tier 8, we severely need to look at this matchmaking at Tier 8, and especially, not even on the battleships or destroyers point of view, but who does it affect the worst? CVs and cruisers. Cruisers just absolutely get smashed and hammered all over the place, and they can't do anything about it, because a lot of these guys' ranges at Tier 8 are not on par. I mean, you look at the Mogami, 15.8 kilometer range. That's terrible, especially if you're fighting against Tier 10 people that have ranges that you can boost to 19.9, and there's no way a Mogami can deal with this on a consistent basis.
No, absolutely not, because you take into account the power creep that gets associated with each tier. When you look at all of the individual Tier 8 cruisers currently in the game,
they're all
and
good.
You look at how they stack up against each other, they're all good. Can you fight them against 9s? Sure, it would be a little bit more difficult. But then it's like when you get into the realm of starting to talk about fighting Tier 10s and then fighting Tier 10s consistently, that's where the power creep just significantly boosts just through the roof for the Tier 10 ship. There's almost nothing you're going to be able to do against a Tier 10 ship unless the Tier 10 ship is being sailed by a potato.
All right. Now, over the course of the last week, I've played a little bit of Tier 8s, and I've taken down a tally. And in this, that's 15, 25, 30 games. Out of 30 games, I know it's still kind of a small sample size, but I have 15 games out of the 30, and I'm playing as a Tier 10 or Tier 8 boat. I'm in Tier 10. 15 out of the 30 games. 4 games were Tier 9, and then I have 11 games where I'm top tier. So that's over 50% I'm playing at Tier 10. And this is a random. This is battleships. This is DDs. This is cruisers. All at Tier 8. Mm-hmm. That's 50%. 50% of my games now I'm still playing as bottom tier with a very little chance of doing anything super spectacular. I feel for the cruiser players out there, and I feel for myself, because I had to endure 15 games at Tier 10, win or lose, whatever, it doesn't matter. I still had to endure that. They put out this arms race to try to curtail some of that, to pull people away from the randoms to go into the arms race and play the arms race. And it's a fun game mode, but I think the rewards aren't good enough that people are going to continue to play this mode. I haven't done it in a couple of weeks. Let's be fair, it came out, I played it 3 or 4 times, and that's it. I mean, I'm like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I see what's going on. The rewards aren't there for me to want to burn my flags, burn my camos, to go in here and burn my death flags just so we can win for what?
For something that doesn't even arguably count against your stats.
Exactly. Number one. Number two, on the other side of that is if you're trying to go in and get a game right now, I was reading some things on Twitter and I was listening to some people talk about it, and it's taken them 5-10 minutes to find a damn game already.
Yeah, it's five to 10 minutes to find a game, especially for a game mode that is new, that has just come out. I've heard people that say that they're only going to play Arms Race just because they want to grind through a ship and they don't want to do it in random battles. And I don't think that should be a reason why people would play one game mode, is just to get a ship grind over with.
Well, I mean, you can do some of the challenges in Arms Race, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with doing some of the challenges in Arms Race, and sometimes it's easier to do those challenges in Arms Race because you're getting an advantage a little bit for firepower or to stealth. There's some good things about it, but I don't think that this game mode is going to stay around very long. It'll probably be there for a long time, but eventually nobody's going to be wanting to play this thing because there's really, like I said, you have to incentivize people to do this other than to get them out of what they have as their normal gameplay. What do you play? I play randoms. What do you play?
I play randoms.
You play randoms. And what would bring you guys? And this is a question for the chat as well. And go ahead and post those to at Sir Venom or at Static and or at Zipshot, because he's my only mod that I can see right now. What do you guys think of Arms Race? Are the rewards there for you guys? I do appreciate the fact. Now I'm not just saying that it's a bad game mode. I played it. I enjoy the game mode. I don't feel like it's rewarding enough for me to want to continue to sit there and play that thing over and over again. What are your guys' thoughts on that, and what do you think overall? Can't hear you. I can't hear you, bro.
Arms Race, J Rambo there says Arms Race is just a quick fix for wargaming to try and handle the matchmaking. Royal Burhat says haven't played it. Yeah. Chaos Machine in the beginning I love it, but after 30 battles, nah.
Yeah, it's gonna be the new hotness. I mean, just like any of these other things that come out, the Halloween event's gonna be the new hotness, and you'll see it on Twitch here because you'll see it in my chat as well, and I'm sure you're in your chat as well. That you'll be playing that for the first couple of days, but after that first couple of days wears off, are people really going to continue to play this 3 weeks from now, a month from now?
Probably not. Not the way that the game mode is, which is designed as just. You could argue de-stress. You go in and the point of it is just, it's not supposed to be serious. It's literally just, you get, buffs like healing per second, faster reload, concealment buffs. And it's not stuff that would actually happen in a random battle. It's just there for you to de-stress. And then after you get over it, then, back to randoms. That's my take on it.
Totally agree. I think they do a fantastic job implementing this thing in that we here in the chat designed ourselves. So I'm going to take full credit for that idea, because we were saying, and then they're going to put a heal out there on the board, you're going to roll over it, and then it's just like World of Warships Quake version, and so we take full credit. We take full credit for the implementation of Arms Race, and you guys can hate me or love me or whatever. But it's I don't know. I mean, it's Arms Race. Cruisers are fine in there. I mostly play destroyers, but all right. So let's move into the good thing about cruisers. Did we talk about the good thing about cruisers yet?
Yeah, the wide variety that there are to playing cruisers. Light cruisers, faster rate of fire, heavy cruisers, slower rate of fire, but arguably more tankier. But the main thing with at least the advantages of cruisers is you're that middle ground where if you don't have a DD, it can perform the functions of a DD minus the torpedo threat. It can spot.
Unless you're talking about the ZOW.
Well, no, and not
the
just
ZOW's
that, but
ridiculous. They should never put them 12K chips out. No reason for that.
That's what power creeped the ZOW over the Hindenburg and swayed the favor for it, is because, when we were talking about tier 10 clan battles a while ago, for season 2 and season 3, when they announced that they were changing the torpedo range on the ZOW, Oh gosh, there were so many people that were like, "Well, why would I play Hindenburg now if the Zao can do exactly the same thing? It's still going to outdetect the Hindenburg by like a good 2.5 kilometers, but now it can stealth torque."
Yeah, it definitely gives it another dynamic that you can't get with the Hindenburg because of its detectability. Honestly, when it comes to competitive situations, I'm not very comfortable in cruisers, except for say the Minotaur, because it is very stealthy, or something that I can, if we go to a tier 7 or something like an Atlanta or something, or a Flint, that I can get behind the island, and I know I'm not going to have to worry about these guys pegging the crap out of me. I'm going to get dink and dunked by Belfast or dink and dunked by another Atlanta. So I totally get where you're coming from. I don't know, man. I mean, they're to me, their biggest advantage is fire rate, their alpha on their HE, and the fire chance all rolled into one. That is the biggest advantage of a cruiser. The maneuverability is another strong advantage that the cruiser has. We look at the Zao with the double rudder shift and just the double rudder shift and the legendary module. Oh, the legendary module Zao is just a jerk. You go 4 number. Check
That's
this out.
filthy.
Check out this build. Homie hooked us up with this build during this thing. 4 tier 1 skills on your captain. 4 tier 1
that would
skills.
be
Preventive
priority
maintenance.
target,
Right.
preventive maintenance,
Priority
expert
target,
loader.
expert loader.
and I would guess the last one would be incoming fire alert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incoming fire alert. And then you play it like a jerk. You go out there, you start shooting, you get spotted, you soon as that incoming fire alert comes on, you hit your brakes. And the shots go sailing by you. And then you wait for that second shot to come out, and then you hit your gas, and then the shots go sailing by you. And it is such a jerky move, but it's so effective for the Zao. I played this first game that I played the Zao trying to do this. I wasn't very successful because I didn't have the mechanics down. But the second game I played it 150 200,000 209,000 damage in my second game doing this, and all because I was dodging the shots. That's what frustrates Battleship players more than anything else. I'm firing continuously at you, and it's taking me 3 minutes to get out 6 shots, and I haven't hit you once. Or if I have hit you, I'm getting an overpin. That's so frustrating for Battleship players. That is what the cruiser's good at. That is just befuddling these people, and then absolutely hammering them for 50, 60,000 damage coming back during that 3 minute little exchange.
Yeah, I feel like part of the big problem is just how passive cruisers play. Like, if you go in and you play a tier 10 battle, it doesn't matter if you see like a tier 8, a tier 9, a tier 10 cruiser. What's the first thing you see them doing? They are already angled away, ready to kite. And it doesn't matter if they're just kind of, if they're like sitting there, just, reversing slowly towards you, or if they're just inching back and forth at 1/4 speed or half speed, or they just decide, oh, I'm just going to randomly accelerate here, and then your shells miss, and then I'm going to reverse here, and then your shells miss. And that's part of what makes it so frustrating to shoot at a cruiser. And that's one of the things that I feel like needs to be changed is maybe I feel like they could actually add some kind of limitation to maybe force a cruiser to at least have to push in after a certain amount of time instead of just kiting away indefinitely.
Well, there is talks, rumors going around of a shrinking map style battle royale style thing, and that would force cruisers to come in. But you really can't force people to play one way or another way, because then it becomes not your choice, and then it becomes you're doing because that's what you're told to be doing, and that takes away a little bit of the fun, a little bit of the originality on how you play your boat versus how I play my boat. They could institute some smaller maps for these things to go on. They could lower ranges. They could an overall sweeping range deduction across the map, across the board. I'm talking battleships, everything. So to combat some of this passivity, force people to come in, lower the detections. If you lower the range, lower the detections. There's a lot of things that they can do to combat some of this, but also it falls on us, the streamer, to perpetuate different styles of play, and it falls to potato names in the community, which will remain nameless here. Those people in that community that perpetuate this is the only way that you can play this Hindenburg is at 19 kilometers. I've tell you how many times I've seen streamers do that, and I've heard it verbatim. You can only play the Hindenburg this way, and people take it as gospel. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I disagree with you. And then if you do disagree with them, then you're terrible. You're a piece of trash. Blah blah blah. So it's going to take a whole community effort to push this, but people aren't going to do it. Why would I want to go in there and get smashed by this guy for 10, 12,000 on a volley when I can just stay out there and he misses me the whole time? Yeah, so I mean, it's a little, you really can't fix it. There's nothing that you can do to fix this.
Well, I feel like it would be interesting if they introduced more maps similar to Ocean. Maybe not exactly Ocean, but maybe have just like maybe 1 or 2 or 3 small islands, but make it so that a majority of the map is open water, and keep it like a relatively small map. So you would want something like maybe even like Sleeping Giant size.
Sleeping Giant's relatively small.
Yeah, it's like a 28 by 28 kilometer map or something like that.
There's a lot of wasted space on that board. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like anything, like, so wherever that C cap is, if we're talking about ranked, you got A on the top, or B on the top, C on the bottom, and then everything north of that is open water. And they could just take out 2 squares of that and then readjust the caps for the other side. You know what I'm saying? Quit, dog. To make it more friendly for people to actually push up and do things. They also could do something with cruisers, making things more effective on cruisers, or taking away some of the effectiveness, so they have to continue to engage. To force that hand, nerf them just a smidge. I'm not talking about taking it all away, but nerf them just a smidge, where they have to engage longer before they can get their effective fire damage, or stuff like that. Because right now, you hit a guy, you set him on 2 fires in 1 volley, he hits his repair, you wait your 20 seconds, and then he's right on fire again after that. And then the guy doesn't have to do anything. He's going to burn for 40% of his hit points on 2 fires.
Yep, and then you just sit there and just rack it up, and then you say, I'm doing work, but then it's like when the rest of your team gets deleted, suddenly you start complaining, saying crap team, but then it's like, what did you do to support your team?
Exactly. So I think cruisers are very strong. They could. I think personally, as a cruiser player, I set those 2 fires. They hit the repair. I continue to fire at that guy until he's on fire again. And then I move my target. So I'm trying to burn this guy's thing, burn this guy's heel, and then I start working the next guy. And I think that's the mentality that is running games for a lot of people. And myself included, where I'm not finishing those kills, I'm just letting it burn. I am farming my own damage and don't really care. And then we're like, oh man, what happened to this team? You look up, you've got 200,000 damage, but you have 1 guy left, and that's you.
Yeah.
So being effective, and I think that also goes to it also attributed to where your position is. Are you paying attention to the minimap? Are you paying attention to the flow of the game? And so on and so on.
It also comes down to what is the composition of the game? Is it battleship heavy? Is it DD heavy? Is it cruiser heavy? Is it top tier heavy? Is it mid tier heavy? Is it bottom tier heavy? Is there CV? And all those things influence how the match is going to go. And then, of course, is there a 3-man div on my team? Is there a 3-man div on their teams? Or 2-man div here, 2-man div here? Is there anybody that is more skilled on the enemy team compared to my team besides myself? All those.
Yeah,
factors.
first thing that I said last night, there was a couple of Kraken Jacker guys, there was a couple of ZR dudes, and I'm like, oh, this game's going to be rough because these guys in these clans have this reputation of being halfway decent players. They're going to be very passive. The majority of these guys are very passive at the beginning of the game, and they let the game unfold in front of them, and it drives me absolutely nuts. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is just sitting here doing absolutely nothing, and it absolutely drives me nuts when I'm playing against it because I'm like, I don't like the slow-paced games. I've already said it. That's why I don't like Tier 10 ranked, because it's too slow. The game is just too slow at Tier 10, and you drop it to Tier 6, Tier 7, the game picks up. It's a lot faster. And I think I get more enjoyment out of this game at Tier 5, 6, 7 than I do at 8, 9, and 10. Just because of the pace of the game, because of the matchmaking at Tier 8. It kind of frustrates me. So I don't know, man. I mean, there's really... It's really hard. This is such a hard subject. How do you fix cruisers how do you incentivize cruisers to go in and play the game?
Function.
Yeah, and perform the function of what they're supposed to do, and not sit back and farm damage the entire time. So I've got this big nasty game. But,
yeah, because I've had countless games where I was sitting back in a Zao, sitting back in a Hindenburg, didn't do one bit of destroyer damage all game, didn't use my Hydro to screen, just use my Hydro for self-defense. I would finish with 250,000 damage, but sometimes I win, sometimes I lose, and I look. Sure, I may be top of the team, but I didn't touch any single DD on the enemy team.
Are you effective? You had 300,000 damage, but were you effective in your damage? How much of that was focused on one guy? We lost the game. I had 238,000 damage, and I was playing as a Kudasov. And this is the only time that I will ever say that I got fires, because I got 13 fires on this thing and burned a Conqueror for 100,000 damage. But we lost the game because I spent so much time focusing on this Conqueror and trying to kill this guy that 101,000 damage out of the 238 was on one dude. So I think that is. And that also, that could be a teamwork. Maybe we were running low on guys and nobody else could get an angle on this guy. That's something to be said about that. There's something to be said about my positioning, because we were on Okinawa and I was up at A and I was helping over the island. He was sitting next to B. So I mean, there's a lot of stipulations and a lot of things. But recognizing the flow of the game, I was not recognizing the flow of the game that game. I was so focused on my own thing, I wasn't thinking about everybody else.
I see a question right here from Mustang Man 6579. It says, Astrovenomic, I've been thinking about this. What if all citadels were removed completely?
Then everybody slings HE, because there's no reason to have AP anymore.
There's no point in having a maximum shell damage for penetrating a citadel if citadels don't exist.
All right, so we're gonna hold off on questions until the end, man, guys. Just keep posting them. Keep posting them in here. We'll address some of these here in just a minute. We're gonna get into this last little bit. Battleship dispersion versus cruisers fire chance on the cruiser side this time. Last week we talked about how the dispersion of my battleship is so finicky and so inconsistent, but they're able to get 6, 7, 8 fires on me every game. And we counted up, I was on 17 fires in one game, and I let so many of those burn out just to hit my repair. And this is with fire prevention. So we were very critical of the fire system, the fire chance system last week, and this time let us look at it from the cruiser's side of it, to where he is so butthurt and so afraid that he's going to get knocked off of the board that most of the cruiser players, that main cruisers, think that everything is fine. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that maybe some cruisers have a little too much firepower. Maybe either whether it be, high alpha damage per salvo or high DPM from fast rate of fire, I feel like maybe some cruisers could be tweaked a little bit to I would say be more balanced, especially like when you look at ships like the Henry, for example. 240 millimeter guns, and I'm looking at right here, 23% fire chance with 3,400 maximum HE shell damage. That's assuming you get a Citadel able to do 3,400. Now, that's a 10.8 second reload with main battery mod 3. If you pop your main battery reload booster consumable, that halves the reload by 50% for 15 seconds. And this is before AR. So assume you're still in full health, you're shooting, you burn DCP. Now you go from a 10.8 second reload down to a 5.4 second reload for 15 seconds. So you get in like an extra 3 salvos in that same period of time compared to if you didn't have it.
It's basically a 3-2.
Yeah, well, 3-2. But the fact of the matter is, you still have good enough penetration on the guns that you can pen what you need, but not like getting something ridiculous like penning an armor belt with high explosive. You're not doing like what the Conqueror does, where it just looks at a British cruiser and okay, bye. But you're doing a lot of high explosive damage, and it's something that skilled players understand that they can do, because skilled players understand that each ship has sections of health. You have the bow, you have the stern, you have the superstructure, you have the deck, and then you have the upper belt, and then the armor belt. And experienced players are going to know that they have to shoot certain spots to basically milk out all the damage from all the different sections of ship. And I feel like that's maybe where you could tweak and nerf maybe either the alpha damage or maybe even the fire chance on some cruisers. Quite frankly, I feel like maybe the Henry could use a little bit of a nerf, because when you go and look at that thing on like some of the ship leaderboards, it literally tops the board for damage right now, being beaten probably only by the Stalingrad.
The opposite side of that is that until this reload booster had come out for the Henry was at the bottom of the damage boards because nobody played it. There was no incentive for anybody to play this. I think it's very good for something like the Henry to have people in this boat and realize how good the Henry actually is. And I argue, and a lot of people disagree with me on this, and I argue that you need IFHE on the Henry. I think that it's a very viable option for the Henry. With the Henry in the 240s and IFHE, you can pin 51 millimeters of armor. That's the way it maths out. So that, guess what, guys? That means you can pin the bow of a Stalingrad, a Kronstadt, and a Moskva. That makes you very dangerous to those particular boats that are deemed overpowered or very strong.
At 51 millimeters of pen with the Henry, you can pen the center deck, the forend, the aft end deck of the Kurfürst. You can pen the forend and the aft end deck of the Yamato, because that's 50 millimeters. You just can't pen the center deck of the Yamato because it's 57. You can pen everything on like a Montana and on a Conqueror and a Repub, because there's 32 millimeter sections of plating everywhere.
So there's something to be said about the Henry, and I know we're talking about all cruisers here, but we just focusing on the Henry because that is a ship that has made a name for itself over the course of the last couple of weeks, or ever since they released these buffs a couple of patches ago, at how strong that boat actually is. And now there's a reason for people to play it, because it does have the reload to keep up with everything else. Before that, you're seeing Zhao's. After that, you're seeing Zhao's and Hindenburg's were top of the charts for a long time, because of just the range and the amount of fire that they can put out, and their reloads and their high alpha damage. Now you're starting to see it even out a little bit. Well, with the implementation of the Stalingrad and now the Henry getting this buff, it's kind of leveled the playing field. You're seeing a lot more. You're seeing a lot more games. It wasn't anything 3-4 a month ago or 2 months ago to see nothing. When did you see a Henry 3 or 4 months ago? You didn't. You barely,
You rarely saw it.
Yeah, you rarely saw him at all. And it was Hindenburg's out, and it was so many games in a row. Hindenburg's out, maybe a few Moskvas thrown in here and there, and now you're seeing everything being played again. So I think it was a good buff for him. But going back to the fire chance, I think with IFHE and fire chance on it is very strong. And the battleships can suck it because they deserve to be on fire. This is what I was told by a cruiser main player at Tier 10. They have the ability to one shot me at any time, so they deserve to be on that many fires. That's our only defense against these things, is to just out damage them.
That comes down to if that battleship player is good or not.
I don't even think it's that.
Aim.
Because you're a pretty damn good battleship player yourself. How many times have you shot at the guy? Oh, this guy's done, and all you get overpins or your dispersion's so trash that you miss the guy.
Oh no!
From 10 kilometers. There's so many variables.
Examples.
I mean, there's so many variables on this, and I think that they need to level the playing field just a little bit. And this is coming from a cruiser standpoint. I know that my biggest threat out there is not the destroyer. My biggest threat out there is that battleship to knock the ever-loving living crap out of me. But if this guy's not even having a chance to do what he needs to be done, because I can sit dead still and his dispersion just goes all around me consistently from 10, 12 kilometers, well, then there's something to it. As a cruiser player, because I don't know about you as a battleship, I got my plane up, I got the aiming mod on in my Yamato, and I'm shooting this guy from 25, and he's just sitting dead still, and my shells go all the way around him.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I feel is also advantageous to cruisers is their small size. When you look at them compared to battleships, sometimes you look at them at a range and you're like, oh, okay, I can hit that. But then it's like, looks can be deceptive. They're faster than they look, and they can maneuver better than they look like they can originally, at least from what you think. You see like a Moskva or something, and then suddenly it decelerates and makes a hard turn, and then, you whiff your salvo. But also, some of them have really high concealment.
Mm.
And I feel like being able to set up to get into certain positions where they become
effective?
Unfarmable. I would say unfarmable, like you can't punish that cruiser anymore. I feel like that's something that they need to address. Maybe they need to introduce more maps like Ocean. They need to, or at least add Ocean into some of the lower tier matchmaking brackets. That way you can get more diversity in playstyle instead of just seeing a bunch of cruisers sitting behind rocks and trying to farm all game.
Yeah, that's kind of slow the game down, but I don't want to nerf the cruisers too much. I think that I'm having a hard time doing this without thinking about as a battleship player, but because everybody knows I don't play cruisers very often, I play more destroyers and battleships, and I know from the frustrating standpoint of being on fire all the time versus my dispersion versus a cruiser, I think there's a very big disparity in between the two of them. When I'm sitting on 17 fires and I hit this guy flat broadside from 6, and I get one overpin, and the rest of the shells are spread out. I had a shot on a Demones from 10 kilometers in Massachusetts. Flat broadside, 10 kilometers. I had 6 guns on the guy. Mm-hmm. I had 2 of my shells go on the front end of his boat and the back end of his boat. Landed wide. Okay, front and back. And then I had the rest of my shells go up and below him. So out of 10 kilometers, I missed this guy with every one of my shells, high, low, left, and right. The Demones is 730-something feet long. And I missed him.
Mm-hmm.
Front and back. That guy's loving it. That guy's loving it. But I'm hating it. I absolutely tore into this game. I was like, how the hell is this a thing? Why is this a thing? 10 kilometers, I should have at least got one Citadel on the guy. Flat broadside. But it's so inconsistent and so what's the word I'm looking for? So inconsistent and random that even from 10 kilometers, you cannot guarantee that you're going to punish this guy for being flat broadside.
No, absolutely not. Well, that with cruiser dispersion, as far as I know, cruiser dispersion is more accurate because you have a smaller gun that doesn't deal as much damage as a battleship. So I think they made cruiser dispersion, at least the Sigma rating of it, significantly higher to accommodate for the fact that you have a smaller shell and therefore you have quote unquote, lower DPM or lower alpha strike. And that's why shell groupings are so tight for, I won't say all cruisers, but I'll say most cruisers. There are some cruisers where you fire and the dispersion looks pretty wonky. You kind of get like the triangle of death the moment you shoot your gun and you just see 3 shells. You aim waterline at like a Zao and then you see like 3 shells go like this. You have like one that straddles him, one that falls way short, and one that terribly overshoots. And
right.
Sometimes that happens with all 3 of the gun turrets too.
Right. Well, I mean, they're and this is, for on the cruiser standpoint, keep it the same. Honestly, as a if I am maining cruisers, I want to see the fires. But guys, I know if you guys have ever hung out in my chat when I'm playing a quote unquote fire breathing boat, and I have the exact build that I'm supposed to have, and I get a Worcester 150 hits, 150 main shell hits, 1 fire. I've had that happen 6 times. 6 times,
gosh.
1 fire. And I'm talking, I'm shooting the top of the, I'm shooting into the superstructure and I get 1 fire. I mean, there's inconsistent on fires unless you're playing against a fire boat and then you're on fire all the time. There's inconsistencies with how many fires that I get, and I don't know what the average fire is for a particular boat. I'm going to get 4 fires. I know with the Seattle, I would have 200-300 hits with HE, nothing but HE, and only get 1 or 2 fires, and then I would have games at 10 fires. But those 2 or 3 fires was so more prevalent than that 10 fire game. And I really don't see the consistency between my experience in the game and everybody else's experiences with the game when I seem to be on fire as a battleship or as a cruiser or as a destroyer all of the time. Like every game, I'm in a battleship, I'm on 8 to 10 fires.
There's definitely sometimes from the battleship standpoint where, like a cruiser aims poorly and then they get rewarded. Like, let's say my DCP just expires after extinguishing a triple fire. And the duration runs out, and then a cruiser just, nicks me 1 shell in the stern, permafire. And I'm like, why does he get rewarded for that? But then it's like, if I try and do that to him from the cruiser standpoint, I burn his DCP, I don't get 1 fire for maybe, 30 straight seconds of firing, and then he goes dark, and then I can't set a permafire on him.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Honestly, there's been a few fixes that we have discussed here in the channel about the fire chance. If you remove, there's a couple of things. Number 1, talk about the dispersion. If you remove the minus dispersion off of the camo only, that minus 3%, I think it would tighten up some of the dispersion, and some of the battleship guys would notice it. I think 3% is noticeable for dispersion. Some of those guys would be quiet about some of their dispersion. I probably wouldn't, because it wouldn't matter to me at all. On the other hand, if you take away the fire chance on broken shells, that could even out some more of the fire chances, so you're not setting on fire 19 times in a game as a battleship. Or if you make fire prevention better. Fire prevention only prevents 10% of the fires, which is not actually 10%. It's like 4.5 if they've got a 45. It's not a full 10%. Also, you get set on 3 fires instead of 4, and that's what the majority of the cruiser players, that's your reward for taking those 4 points. But if you're on 3 fires all the time anyway, does it really affect the boat? Not really, because you're still burning consistently the entire time. Or taking IFHE and going just for that pure alpha damage and removing fire chance on the HE would even the playing field a little bit more, because of the dispersion of the battleships versus the cruisers, their fire chance.
I feel that they should nerf IFHE in some way. If you keep the increased the 30% extra penetration from high explosive shells, a fair measure would be at least nerfing the fire chance of the ship by 50%. That way you choose between going for trying to farm fires and getting a bunch of shatters if you take demo expert to offset that, compared to if you just, you take IFHE and you're just going for the straight alpha damage just from getting high explosive shell penetrations.
Well, I mean, it would do something that that the destroyer players are trying to get the battleships to do, or the cruisers are trying to get the battleships to do, and that is make a choice. They have no choice. I mean, every build that cruiser people are playing right now, other than the British DDs, is what? Demo expert, IFHE on a lot of these things, and you're forcing me to make a choice between fire prevention and this. Well, we need to force these cruiser players to make a choice between I'm going to take DE, I'm going to set you on fire, or I'm going to give you pure alpha damage. One or the other. I honestly think that if you take one of them, you shouldn't be able to take the other one.
Well, first of all, I want it to shrink.
Yeah, I can see where that would make it more balanced, so that you can't just get basically the best of both worlds. You get like only like a 1% penalty to your fire chance as it currently sits, but you gain the increased 30% in penetration. But I feel like if you can't take one or the other, that would definitely, I would say, balance the DPM a little bit more, because then that forces cruisers to have to tactically be aware of when they should be firing armor piercing and when they should be firing high explosive. That way they choose between, can I penetrate the armor of this battleship or this cruiser with high explosive, or can I pen it with armor piercing and do more damage instead of shattering?
Well, that's something else about cruiser players that I have seen, and I'm kind of guilty of it myself. But there is really good AP on the Zao, really good AP on the Hindenburg, really good AP on a lot of these French boats. So the Russians got good god tier AP on a lot of their boats. I mean, when you sit there and think about it, the destroyers want the battleships to make a choice between AP and HE. We shouldn't be able to do this, right? Now, the cruisers should also be thinking, I'm not saying we force these guys to make that choice, but these cruiser players that are out there today need to understand that they can do 10, 12,000 damage on battleships just by firing a couple of salvos of AP into their upper armor belt. And a lot of people don't realize that their AP is solid on the Henry, the Zao, and let's look at Tier 8. The Prince Eugene and the Hipper have got great AP, but
they have 5,900 AP shell damage, which prior to the Russians getting released, namely the Moskva with its 220s, 5,900 was the highest AP shell damage that you could get, because when the Moskva was introduced, it had 220s. It has 5,800, but it has railgun velocity compared to the Germans, where it starts to get a little bit floaty at the end.
Right.
But but then now you have ships up at the higher tiers, like the Stalingrad and the Kronstadt. The Kronstadt having 305s. It has 9,000 AP shell damage. You have the Stalingrad with 305s, but a different model. It has 9,200 shell damage, which is just ridiculously high. Like even the Henry too. You have 240s, so it's about roughly an inch and a half bigger. It has 6,200 AP shell damage.
Yo, it's not nothing. I tell you how many times I've dropped citadels on cruisers from 12, 8 to 10 kilometers, but I've dropped citadels on people from 18 kilometers on broadside cruisers. When I hit them with the Henry. If you can actually figure out the slow shell trajectory arc and when you're going to hit this guy, you can pop citadels plunging fire into cruisers very easily, especially with the Henry. But the majority of the players out there, they're going to stay on HE the entire time, and to their own detriment, because they're missing out on a lot of damage that they possibly could have had. So think about that when you guys are going out there and playing. We got time. We got about another 15 minutes or so if we want to jump into If we want to jump into questions, guys, if y'all have any questions, I'm here hanging out with Static the Warmonger here. You can find him at twitch.tv/Static the Warmonger or at Static TWMR over on the Twatters. I am Sir Venom. Hey, how's it going? Guys, go ahead and put your questions in now, right now, at Sir Venom IK or at Static the Warmonger as we go into our final thoughts on everything today. So, final thoughts on everything today. Ranked, the British DDs, the Halloween event, the spotting system fixes, anything that we talked about, cruisers. Do you have any other things that you would like to elaborate on or put in?
Very excited for the Halloween event as usual. They always do a great job with the graphics, the visuals, and the gameplay objective on it. And I love that it's not serious. So it's nice to de-stress. Arms race, interesting concept. Also nice to de-stress. But when the Halloween event comes up, I don't see people playing it all that much. British DDs, new line coming in, something that some people have wanted for quite a while now. As we get more Royal Navy ships into the game, it's nice to add more diversity in with having, not ships that don't have like gimmick torps like the Pan Asians with their deep waters, but also having, a gunboat style of play while having decent torps. And then, of course, cruisers. Yeah. Well,
all right. So we kind of played up this conversation relatively unbiased, I guess. I don't know. I tried to be as unbiased as I possibly could, but now give me your honest opinions here. Don't bias it. Just give me your honest opinions because you're not much of a cruiser player. You do play them, but not very often. But give me your honest opinions about cruisers.
I feel that for cruisers, at least for most tiers, there should only be a +1, -1 matchmaking bracket for them instead of a +2, -2. Obviously, with the exception of tier 4 and 5, where it is limited only by one tier. You can't have 4, 5, 6 games anymore. And the main reason why I feel that should be a thing is so that when people play certain ships, they're not getting completely power creeped by something that they are going to stand absolutely no chance against, regardless of whether it be the ship they're going to be fighting up against or the people playing the ships that they're going to be fighting up against.
I think, my thinking is the cruisers are still the strongest class in this game, bar none. Their amount of damage that they can put out versus the battleships is vastly different. You get 2 guys out there, 3 guys out there with 150,000 damage each, and you look at your own total, you got 100,000 in your battleship, and the disparity is huge. I think that personally they can look at bringing it a little bit closer together, lowering the fire chance on some of these cruisers. It's my own personal opinion though. Because they're a little bit they're over-tuned, I suppose, and you know how wargaming is. They don't do it in increments. They go from one extreme to the very end of the other extreme. So, all right, British DDs. I think they're fantastic. Ranked tier 5 is going to be fun. I'm thinking I have 2 accounts, so I'm thinking maybe I'll do one with just playing with some of the quote-unquote A-team guys from the clan or something like that, and then maybe on the second account I pull somebody from the chat and we rank together if we can, as far as we can go together, if they're actually going to do a duo. Halloween events coming up. I'm really excited about that as well. They always do really good job, and they seem to be doing a pretty decent job with this spotting fix. They still need to tweak it just a smidge to make it back to where it used to be. So let's move on into the questions. Zipper, I'm sorry, man. I've been sending you private messages the entire time with the questions on there, so I could have them all in one little list here. Let's scroll up on this. I do apologize, and thank you for letting me do that for you. So hang on. Do you have any questions out there that you caught that you would like to talk about real quick? Static.
Is there any questions out there that I have right now?
Yeah, that you caught that you would like to talk about.
There was the one that I did end up calling out earlier. It was a Mustang man with the whole removing citadels. Honestly, there would be no point in firing armor piercing at anything if it didn't have a citadel, because the only thing you would get is just pen damage instead of just like absolutely devastating something.
Well, and I mean, I think my opinion on this is it goes a little bit further. If you start removing citadels from cruisers, then you've already removed the citadels from the destroyer to begin with, right? Which was necessary, and it was ridiculous. The second part is now the destroyers are complaining about the battleship AP still does too much damage to them. Now you're gonna get in. See, this is the can of worms. If you start changing the destroyer AP pin values from battleships, now the cruiser guys are gonna be like, yo, you need to remove my citadel, and then after that, I'm still gonna be able to chunk you for 10 or 15,000 damage with just pure alpha damage, and then now, oh, that's too much, and now we can't, now nobody's playing AP anymore, and it takes away a very fundamental mechanic of this game of battleships, or should be better and dominate these cruisers.
DD players talking about how they need to change battleship armor piercing and how it affects them. That's just a case of the destroyer should understand that he should not be turning away as soon as he should be. He should be understanding that if he turns and presents the length of his ship, the shell is going to have more time to arm because it's going to have more different compartments of the ship to go through. And even if it does overpen and goes down underneath the keel of the ship, the shell's still going to arm, and that's what results in the penetration damage.
Agreed.
And going from that into where you're going to have the cruisers that are saying, oh, well, you need to remove my citadel, it's just a case of don't show broadside. Or just angle properly.
That's not necessarily the case, because you and I both know that the broadside cruiser is not the one that's going to get dominated. It's the broadside cruiser that you put your shot into, the one that you're going to overpin 7 times. That's the frustration that I'm seeing a lot, and I don't know if that's me or if that's part of RNGesus or a little bit of both with dispersion versus battleship. I think that if they remove the double pin value on DDs, right? Because you hit him in the front and it pins him twice. He does 1 shell for 8,000 damage. That's a little strong. I don't care if he's at 10 kilometers or not. So if they remove the double pin value and then still reward me if I hit you for 3 shells for 10,000 damage, or it's 4,000 damage, and I hit you for 3 times for 4,000 damage, and I get 3 pins on it, I still should be able to chunk you for 12 because you still have that ability to hit me with 8 torps and kill me. So I think that there is a balance. If you're talking over 10 kilometers of range, then yes, we can talk about destroyers getting dominated by that. There's no reason to have a 14,000 damage chunk from a guy at 15 kilometers away. Under 10 kilometers, the biggest complaint, the battleship shouldn't be there. He deserves to get hit by those torps. Well, that destroyer is at 10 kilometers. Well, he shouldn't be there too. Fuck that destroyer. He should get punished for him coming in there. Because if you don't, then you have this abundant destroyer just YOLO charging battleships, because they know that it's going to take them 4 volleys for them to kill me with only overpins. So I think it breaks a little bit of the balance that the game currently has. But if you do fix, you take out that double pin value and you keep my regular pin value just 1 time, I think it'll even out, and a lot of people will stop complaining about it.
I noticed one of the comments from Sean Solo 7 that says, don't show a broadside, in regards to me talking about like cruisers getting blapped. That's not always the case for why a cruiser dies. The other part of that is either the battleship gets good RNG and they just got lucky, or the cruiser player just got very lucky and they didn't end up getting citadel where shells would normally come through and just pen them. So it's not like, me saying don't show a broadside is going to increase your survivability. It's just understand that you're going to be targeted by somebody that is paying attention on the enemy team, and they're looking to try to exploit the fact that they can go out in an instant. And that's something that you have to pay attention to in a cruiser, is understand that people will be looking to eliminate you, especially if you pose a significant threat to their team, regardless of whether it be from your high concealment, your high DPM, or your ability to just speed tank.
Agreed. So Fox Dice says, whatever and however it makes a captain react and change, aka you cannot robot, is his thoughts of the subs coming into the Halloween event. So hey man, I'm all for adjusting play styles and adjusting games of play. So I'm excited for the subs. And Spectre says, whoever designed the Halloween event earned their paycheck. It is always good. There you go. The next one, Dar44 says, I heard you guys talk about potato plays, which I say is me. I find I can't play steady, and is there any media that you can suggest to keep up with changes and help? That is, Dar, the changes and help that you can get are what we do here on the YouTube channel is the basic mentality of the game. If you can go through those videos and understand what I'm trying to get across in those videos of World of Warships for beginners, those are basic mentalities. And if you follow those basic mentalities, you're going to make the right decisions, because there are so many different scenarios. I've played 13,000 games in this thing over the course of 2.5 years, and not 2 games have been the same. No 2 games have I ever played have been exactly the same. And that's 2.5 years of nothing but playing this game. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, how can I help these other guys? Well, I've been in this situation before. I already know what I'm going to do, but these guys haven't been in this situation. So if I can impart to you some of the basic mentality, okay, maybe you don't pop your smoke as soon as you pop into that cap as a destroyer, because you're going to give away your position. That's a basic mentality. And so you're not going to do that. And then you're going to be able to make decisions based off of what you've experienced on your own and the right decision for what you think is the time. And then after that, go analyze what you've done. Okay, well, I made a mistake here. I could have done that. And once you do that, your game is going to go through the roof. You're going to be more average as hell. Thoughts?
So what was the? Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question again? On that? Yeah, you went on for a little bit.
I went on. Yeah.
Towards the end.
He says, "Is there any media or anything that could help him keep up with the changes and in general help for the game?" And I have it. Streams, ask questions, stuff like that. I mean, there's so many videos out there. Me, Jace has got some good videos. Knots or iChase has got good videos. There's a few others.
Yeah, in terms of like just getting better, elevating your play, that comes down to understanding that you have to do. This doesn't apply to just battleships, but when you load into a match, you have your basic checklist. 1, you're looking for what tier are you playing at? Are you top tier? Are you mid tier? Are you bottom tier? 2, you're looking for what is the ship composition of the match? Is it battleship heavy? Is it cruiser heavy? Is it DD heavy? And then 3rd, you're looking for, is there anybody on the enemy team that will pose a significant threat to my ship or my team, where they can either cause me, like they would make the game extremely difficult to carry, or they would basically be able to delete my ship or a teammate. And then of course, the other factor of it too, what map do you load into, and what side of the map did you load into? Did you spawn on the north side of a map? Did you spawn on the south side of a map? Do you usually go A on certain maps? Do you usually go C on certain maps? Do you usually go D on certain maps? Do you usually go B on certain maps?
Do you go up the middle for $5?
Do you go up the middle for $5? That's a very good question right there for Two Brothers. Don't worry, I did that on stream the other day, and I actually ended up coming out with a death strike.
It's amazing, man. It's awesome to do that.
No, it is fun to go up mid on Two Brothers, especially as a DD. You just go up there, park broadside, drop torps, and then just go right back down back to your base.
There you go.
It's hilarious.
SAT score says, Sir Venom, I actually find that DD sometimes to be the biggest threat to me in my cruiser. It's not because of the DD itself, because rather than him spotting me, many times it will force the cruiser to be on the defensive, preventing an aggressive plays. Agreed.
Agreed. The cruiser, you're not going to feel comfortable moving up if you are uncertain where exactly a destroyer is. You can generally gauge the general vicinity that he's going to be in, where you can expect torps coming from. The problem, you are being spotted. That is preventing you from moving up comfortably, because now not only is the destroyer staring at you, other people on the destroyer's team are going to start looking over in your general direction like, oh, look, there's something trying to make a play over here. Maybe I should go over and investigate. Maybe I should turn my guns. Maybe I should look over there. And that does force the cruiser to go on the defensive, because you can't push into the DD because you're never going to be able to get close enough to spot him if he's not a potato. But you can't do anything knowing that at any moment you could potentially be chunked for basically your entire health bar.
I totally agree. It's all situational, right? So like I said, every game is different. So if you get into a situation where you're mentally paying attention to the mini map, you're going to make the right decisions on your positioning better than the other player. I've said it here in this channel a lot of times, and I'll say it here on the podcast. This game is about 30% skill and 70% RNGs. That 30% skill entails your positioning versus the enemy's positioning, and then where you actually pull the trigger on your shots. The rest of it is up. As soon as those shells leave, it's all up to RNG. As soon as you're going to get hit by this, you're going to get hit by that. Are you going to get set afire? Is it going to overpin? Is it going to hit you in the citadel? I mean, that's all up to RNGs. So skill-wise, people, I'm the best, blah, blah, blah. I'm the best of the best of the best. I'm like, no, you have the best positioning and you aim the best. That's basically what they're saying, in my opinion. So we got time for a couple more questions here. Tweety Bird 17 says, how do you feel about all the radar? It tends to go too far and last too long as a destroyer cruisers. When you're popping that radar, how many times can you really kill that DD? Not very often, unless you have help. I think on the cruiser standpoint of it, the radar is fine. On the destroyer standpoint of it, it slows the game down, and it really hurts the destroyers.
For me, from the destroyer standpoint, it's more of a minor inconvenience, unless you know for sure that the radar and the people that are shooting at you are not potatoes, in which case it becomes a major inconvenience. You end up risking your ship for something that is not supposed to perform as good as it should, per se. From the cruiser standpoint, if you're getting radared, you're either in a really bad position and you're trying to escape, or you're in a really bad position and the enemy team knows they can just take you out. From the battleship standpoint, you're dead if you're sitting there getting radared and you're trying to retreat and you beached and you know you're gonna die. You're probably dead. But in most cases, radar has very little effect on I would say very little negative impact on a battleship.
Moving on, Amenher says, I think if you made cruisers that benefit from IFHE, choose between that and defensive demolition expert, they will choose IFHE. I prefer consistent damage over relying on good RNG. That's not really a question, but that's a comment. I tend to agree with that. I mean, I have two different builds for my Atlanta. I have one that's IFHE fire dependent, or IFHE, and then I have one that's an AA that'll rely on the fires. So it's all. I have consciously made that choice. Okay, I'm going to take in a division with a Saipan, or I'm going to take in a division with a tier 6 CV or whatever, if we really want to be assholes. I'm going to go full AA spec here. I'm going to rely on the fires to get my damage. That's a conscious choice that I have made on the Atlanta to either do damage myself, depending on what, if we're playing, Belfast, Atlanta, just really asshole divisions, or is there going to be CVs in this game with me? So that's a conscious choice that I've had to make.
I really feel like you should be forced to choose between one or the other, relying on the RNG or relying on the consistent penetration damage, because there's no reason that my 6-inch gun has the same high explosive penetration as this cruiser's 8-inch gun, just because I take one 4-point skill that makes it a necessity on all ships of the same type that have the same or similar caliber guns. I don't think that's fair, and I think that should be changed to where you can only choose between IFHE or Demo Expert, but you can't have both.
Yeah, that would curve some of the fire chance as well. Do you feel that the objectives are too focused on destroyer play? If so, would adding objectives focused around other ship types would open the gameplay some? That's from Chubbins Gaming. I don't know, man. Like, anytime that you have an objective-based game like this, you're going to need somebody to A, spot it, B, cap it. And what better tool out there to spot and cap other than a destroyer? That I don't think they really can unless they do a 9-circle domination game where only battleships can cap this thing and only cruisers can cap that thing and only DDs can cap this thing. Will you rarely see battleships push into that cap early? I mean, now late in the game, yeah, I've capped a bunch of caps in my battleship, but it doesn't really fit. There's no objective base that they can do to push a other than non-destroyer pushing into this cap, because those are best suited for doing it. All right, one more comment here, and then we'll close it up. Sean Solo says, which popular streamer positions the best? Who could we learn from? If you're playing battleships, I mean, go watch Static. Come watch me. I play a lot of battleships. I play a very aggressive battleship. So if you're into being aggressive with your battleships, I play probably more aggressive than any other streamer out there. If you want a more passive style battleship play, look at somebody like OGisms or General Dort, some of the most fantastic battleship players on the server. If you're talking about destroyers and their positions, there's so many good destroyer players out there. Mijash is one of them. God, there's so many. Business 6 plays quite a bit of them as well. What do you think, Static?
Business 6, I know. Business 6 also plays. He plays cruisers too sometimes, but he's also good with his positioning. There's times where he's definitely more aggressive in some scenarios than I would be if I was him, but he does get away with it sometimes.
So there you go, guys. Thank you very much. That's going to do it for us here in Across Your Bow podcast, episode 5, all about the cruisers. Next week, we've gotten in touch with Citizen Soldier 9 to come on, and we're going to talk about everything destroyers next week. Static, you're more than welcome to come back anytime you want to. Just let me know and we can make it happen. Static, tell them where they can find you.
All right, so for everybody watching right now, you can find me on Twitter at statikthewarmonger. It is a picture of me with my headset right there around my neck. That will be me. And on Twitch, you can find me at twitch.tv/statikthewarmonger. I primarily play battleships. I do take battleship requests or ship requests in general. If you guys have any ships that you want to see me play, I will play it. And I will play it to the best of my ability, or I will play it a certain way, like when SAT requested that I play range mod Harugumo, and I ended up having a blast playing 17.1 kilometer Haru.
Don't sleep on that range mod Harugumo, dude. I played at 15.1 kilometers with no concealment whatsoever, and that thing is just dirty. It's dirty, nasty. Yeah.
So nasty.
Guys, go ahead and zip shot if you want to link Static's Twitch here in the channel as well. You guys go click on his name and send him a follow. I want to thank you for coming on, man. That was enjoyable. We can get back together in some future time, and we can do it again. I mean, I love it. I love having people on. I love talking about ships. I love talking about anything that you guys want to talk about here. If you guys have any other topics that you guys would like for myself and my guests to cover in particular, please PM them to me or head over to the Discord channel and put it in the podcast idea tab. That is open for anybody and everybody as well. Well, I am Sir Fiddle Mike K, and he is Static the Warmonger for Across Your Bow podcast episode 5. We want to thank you all for coming out. Hang out. We're playing some more games. You want to play a little bit, or are you done?
Yeah, I could play for a little bit. I'm good to go for about the next 6 hours.
All right, cool. So, guys, hang out with us. We're going to jump into the game and continue the conversation if you guys wish. We're going to take about 2 or 3 minutes here to get up and stretch our legs, go get another drink, go to the restroom, and we'll be back for our normal stream time. I love you guys. Thank y'all very much. I guess I don't know. I don't really have an ending for this thing. Thanks for watching, motherfuckers.